People say you must remember the past in order to rectify the future. Certainly is the case with the Holocaust. But as generations grow further away from the tragic event, how are we able to make sure future generations do not forget? I'll share with you the story of two survivors and how a young, ambitious Israeli director is determined to make sure the world never forgets the atrocious acts which took place during the Holocaust.
Today is Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day. Today we commemorate all of the lives that were lost during the tragic events of the Holocaust and World War II. Today we read the names of those who perished.
Joseph Buchalter, Abraham Ostrovsky, Nina Ostrovsky, Sarah Ostrovsky, Miriam Levy, Rachel Kravitz.
I am a Holocaust survivor, but I'm also Rosian Zerner. And I don't want to be the victim. I don't want to be typecast. I want to be a whole person. And in a way, the rediscovery has helped me, and in another way, it has made me very sad in some ways. Now, you're the first interview I've had, probably in about 4 years. I blocked everything out until the year 2000. I had to sort of reinvent myself again when I started to go back to Lithuania and sort of go back every step into my childhood, and that was very emotional.
And why did you decide the year 2000?
I sort of woke up one morning and saw that I didn't feel whole, and I couldn't understand that you cannot just throw out part of your life as garbage. It's part of you. It's like you can't cut off an arm and be whole.
What was it like growing up in Lithuania for you?
Well, there are different levels of growing up because so many things happened during the time I was in Lithuania. First, yes, I was born into a privileged life with servants in 1935 Ford and chauffeur and very loving parents. And then the war started and we had nothing except a cart full of things that we were allowed to take into the ghetto. When we went into the ghetto, first it was one room. It was blood splattered by somebody who had been there before. And I remember my mother scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. And 4 of us lived in one room.
You were one of the lucky ones. How did you escape?
My parents were my first rescuers, actually. And they had heard rumors that in Vilnius, which was the other ghetto, and other places, the children and the elderly were dispensable. And what they would do with the children, they would suck out some of the blood and discard the children's bodies, and throwing them on trucks and limbs flying and all this kind of horrors. What they did is they timed the guards, they timed the searchlights and the dogs and everything surrounding the barbed wire of the ghetto. And they started digging a hole, little by little, under the barbed wire that was big enough for somebody 6 years old, which is what I was at the time. When the day came and they did this again with the timing of the guards and the searchlights and so forth, they were able to push me through that hole to freedom.
Having to leave your parents at 6 years old, what kind of fears did you have?
I was a basket case. I was crying all the time, and my father's secretary, who was on the other side of the barbed wire and took me in, she was too fearful to keep me with her because I was crying all the time. So I had to go someplace else. Fortunately, she found someplace else for me.
How did it feel when you were finally reunited with your parents?
That is something that is like a minor miracle also, because Lithuania is a country where 96% of the Jews were killed. That's 10% of the population of entire Lithuania, and mostly within 1 year. So you're looking at a 4%er. Again, I can't say how grateful I am that things have turned out the way they have, because I've had a wonderful life afterwards.
And Rosian Zerner, who's a good friend of mine, we invited to speak, to be the keynote speaker. Because I think students think of Holocaust survivors as something that must be really depressing and has no life. And when they'll meet her, they'll get to see that even after all she's been through, there's a vivacious, amazing person full of stories, full of life. And I think that's what they should take away from it. The Banality of Love is a play that was written in 2009 in Israel by Savion Liebrecht, and it's an exploration of the relationship between Martin Heidegger and Hannah Arendt. She got to know him as she was his student in Germany, and as anti-Semitism was on the rise, she was able to escape. She became more and more of a Nazi. On a bigger picture, German Jewry and German culture.
The Banality of Love is one of the first plays that I saw through Guy. And the plays that he brings, like The Banality of Love, are really a gift to Boston.
Why do you think it's important for Guy to be doing what he's doing, to be putting on a performance like The Banality of Love?
We can't really expect that education can do it all. Books can be burned, but the continuation of the remembrance through words goes from generation to generation, just like our Passover story.
I'm the grandson of two Holocaust survivors who survived in Romania and who had all their family killed. So it's a very personal, it's in my blood. So to me it's honoring my grandparents and the family that didn't get to make it afterwards.
What about for those that don't actually have a direct relationship or a direct correlation to the Holocaust? How do you create a connection for them so that they are understanding and they are going out to seeing stuff like The Banality of Love?
I think this is a play. It's a narrative. It's an emotional story. Really, when you come right down to it, it's about a woman who's in love with a man who isn't in love with her. Everybody can relate to that. I think that if it was a show that was really focused on facts and numbers, students can't connect. I think the most important thing to do now is to get students to connect to a human story.
A great deal of words that incite to hatred, and they seem to go unchallenged. And that leads to acts of hatred that go unchallenged. So what is to prevent the violence that we see around us? That is something that I think goes beyond education. It has to come from inside of every one of us, that to see that everyone is vulnerable, not just the Jews, not just the Croatians or Rwandans or Cambodians. You know, it can happen at the strike of a match.
Hello, my name is Iris Moore. I am a student at the College of Communication. Today is Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. Today we commemorate all of the lives that were lost during the tragic events of the Holocaust and World War II. Today we read the names of those who perished.
Arditi Salomon, Arab Eliezer, Finkelstein Olga Sofia, Finkelstein Marietta Sofia,
Izakovich Palumba, Malki Joseph,
Maraminsky Rivka, Maraminsi Yaakov. Although Yom HaShoah is only one day, it does not mean we should forget about the Holocaust for the 364 other days of the year. And while remembrance is a part of the larger end goal, it is not the only thing necessary to ensure the past does not repeat itself. Education is another key component to the dissemination of truth and awareness. As Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.